All right, welcome back to another episode of the Black Bullion Show. Last week, gold and silver had a few obstacles in the way of consolidation that slowed down the momentum of growth in comparison to what we saw from the prior week. However, gold ultimately had an uptrend last week, though it didn't feel that way day to day. At least it didn't for me, when you're kind of just looking at these things day to day. But overall, it had an uptrend. Silver, started last week off strong, but it started to trend downward somewhat. Again, being faced with some consolidation. So what does this week have in store for gold and silver? Well, find out shortly. But first, if you're new to this channel, please hit that big red subscribe button right down below. Also, please hit the like button. Helps to get this economic evangelism right on out there to the masses to bring more people into precious metals. Okay, so let's take a look here. Gold had a pretty nice run last week, as I mentioned before. Had a pretty nice uptrend. Let's take a look at silver. Silver's wasn't the greatest, but overall it wasn't bad. So what about this week? Well, we're going to have to take a look at a few things. We're going to focus primarily on economics, politics, and just general trader activity, when we take a look at how things will move. Also, you also have to take into consideration how some of those will impact the foreign exchange markets as well, because the dollar has started to move a little bit differently than it had last week. But first, let's talk about politics. So generally, things are at a bit of a stalemate right now in Washington, as there seems to be a struggle to pass the latest edition of the CARES Act, which could wind up being this latest version called the HEALS Act. At this moment, the country, investors, and families are worried about the prospects of household income. Now, this is stoking the fire of risk-off sentiment that we began to see reappearing towards the end of last week. Once the latest iteration of enhanced unemployment benefits are secured in a new bill, and it passes, then the country, investors, and families may feel some relief, and we may actually see some risk-on behavior in the near term. Now, I expect this new bill will pass sometime this week, and if it does pass and investors are feeling exuberant, I think it will be enough to really apply short-term downward pressure on gold and silver prices. This would unfortunately match the direction that traders have been eyeing recently, as gold and silver have both shown some near-term overbought behavior. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that the prices will plummet. I mean that we may see some near-term sideways behavior. Now, if we don't get a risk-on mood this week, gold and silver should be fine. But if the bill passes and investors are feeling somewhat upbeat, that might shift traders' attention to those riskier plays. So finally, what are we contending with this week when it comes to economic data? Well, we have a lot of economic data coming out this week, but I think Wednesday through Friday will be the most exciting days. Wednesday, we will get the non-manufacturing numbers for July. Now remember, in June, we beat the forecasts of service sector activity, and we jumped back to these pre-Roni's levels, almost doing as well as we did in February. So on that exuberance, if we get any sort of notch down in service sector activity for July, I'm sure we'll see gold and silver perform well around that time. We'll get that news on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so stay tuned for that. On Thursday, we'll get the unemployment claims data, and Friday, we'll get the unemployment rate. So guys, I have a feeling that the latter half of the week will be good for monetary metals. If that change in unemployment claims trajectory that we saw in July was any tell, then the unemployment rate may look worse in July. Now, it may not be a significant change, as people have to start receiving those benefits before being counted in the actual unemployment rate. So a part of those numbers relies on the efficiency of the department in turning around those unemployment claims requests. So guys, look for things look good for gold and silver until we get the stimulus passed. Also, there's going to be some pressure from the dollar. It's the euro against the dollar is starting to lose some steam. The pound may actually start to pick up a little bit more. It seems like it's a little bit undervalued right now, so we may actually start to see the pound pick up a little bit, but the euro may actually start to head in the opposite direction from where it was heading last week. So the dollar may also be another variable here to consider. So there may be some additional headwinds here, but I expect that the economic data that we will get this week will fall in favor of gold and silver. But let me know what you guys think about where we're possibly headed as far as this week is concerned. Thanks again, guys, for checking out the video. Please give it a like. Please subscribe if you're new. It's Black Bullion.